Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Formula E Championship Wrap-Up Edition. Joe Sanriego here, along with Joshua Bursch. Just finished up your program on your Motorsports channel. Of course, link in the video description. Let's get straight into it, Joshua. Stoffel Vandoorne, the newest FIA ABB Formula E World Champion, the second year in a row for Mercedes driver to win the World Championship for the Formula E. And Vandoorne, first time since GP2, he got a championship. Of course, we all know he went to McLaren Formula One, had Fernando Alonso as a teammate. McLaren was not in a good spot in that situation. Then he comes here to Formula E with originally HWA 2018-2019. He got at least one podium that season, and every year he gets at least one podium following that season, or win each year. First win was in Berlin. Now, three career wins in Formula E. This last one, Monaco, but that was the big one because one win, the consistency, he has the championship. First time in Formula E. Is Stoffel Vandoorne showing the full potential he has, especially for fans who mainly remember him for his Formula One stint?
Absolutely as well. That stint with McLaren as well, I think, was a bit of a rocky patch at some stages. His fan base was immediate because at the time when he came in, he and Max Verstappen were sort of like a double duo of Vandoorne was actually born in the Belgium-Netherlands border town as well. So technically he was born in the Netherlands and Max Verstappen was technically born in Belgium. But they both race on the other licenses as well. So they are both immensely popular in both the Netherlands and in Belgium as well. And that's why we see the fans have sort of stuck with him as well. And ever since he was booted out of Formula One, many people didn't like that as well. And McLaren did that again to a young driver. And they followed him over to Formula E. And every single race he's been in, he's the only driver to have 100% success rate at getting the fan boost. So every single round he's been in, he's been given the fan boost. It was no difference today either. He got it as well, and he did use it on the safety car restart. So I think, yeah, he's showing his potential now as well as a driver, which the fans clearly knew he had, and we clearly knew he's had as well. And now he's showing it to everybody else who may have ever doubted him. He's been consistent throughout the year. Yes, he's only won one Grand Prix in Monaco, but he has been in the points for every single race bar Mexico where he retired. So that is unbelievable consistency, and that's what's won in the championship. It's akin to what Keke Rosberg did in 1982, and we were talking yesterday on the show as well, NASCAR in 2003 when that happened as well, just winning one victory across the year. So it's nice seeing that the championship is won over a year, not by how many races you've won or by how many points you're in on the last race. It was won over the season, which is always nice to see.
Always nice to see. And I have to agree, especially with Formula E, the past seasons we compared it to the Wheel of Destiny, the randomness. They see a consistent driver go out there, get the win for the championship. It's just amazing. Big congratulations to Stoffel Vandoorne, because as you mentioned, he has a record of just going out there, getting some good race wins. Overall, what happened with him, McLaren, really unfortunate, just the timing. I think it really shows with Formula One. You just have to be there in the right time where you got a good car, good team, good environment to make it happen. Didn't. So to see him get the success here, Formula E, really exciting. And of course, we know, especially for other fans that may be following him in sports car racing or other forms, they know he's a talent. I think it's just really rewarding to see he is now a FIA world champion. Mercedes, they claimed the team's championship despite Eduardo Montoya taking another win. Montoya now ties Mitch Evans with 4 wins, the most for this season. Nick DeVries has 2 wins this year. So combine those 3 drivers, that has 10 race wins. But here's the big key: 13 races where no points were scored between all of them. Vandoorne just had 1 race in Mexico City where he didn't score points. He got the win in Monaco, so it's pretty awesome to say you win the biggest race of the year, the consistency, you get the championship. Whereas on IndyCar, you win the biggest race of the year, you get double points here. Just the consistency alone, again, that 1 race win, hugely important. 8 different winners this year in Formula E. Has Formula E evolved from the Wheel of Destiny type seasons, like we mentioned, to now, if you know you got a good team, you got the consistency, you have to be consistent to get the championship because you can't just rely on the most wins and inconsistency from everyone else.
Yeah, I think this season, sort of like we've seen it as a bit of a fluke, haven't we? Because usually in Formula E, like last season, season 8, we had, or season 7 actually, we had 14 drivers going in on the last day with a shot of winning the title, and it just went all crazy, went all chaotic. With this one, it has been consistency, and we shouldn't have actually had the Gen 2 car this season. We should have had the Generation 3. So I think that sort of affected how people are looking at things as well, the way they've raced this season, because they now all know the machinery way too well. The team gaps have come down massively. We saw with how many different winners we've had this season. So I think as well, we have moved away slightly from the Wheel of Destiny as to who's going to win this week, who's going to crash this week and all that. But I think going into Generation 3 next year, that's going to come back again. So I think we've experienced sort of like a flash in the pan as well. But I'm hoping that being consistent still gets you the title. And it's not that we're just, you've got 3 wins, which means you've got 50 points more than everybody else who's managed it. You win the title. So I'm hoping that we see the consistency because I've enjoyed the season an awful lot. I really have. Some close racing, some fantastic racing. And I want to see that stay in Gen 3. And as we saw in season 5 when we got Gen 2, it does start to get a little bit chaotic, and the first year is always balmy. I mean, we saw yesterday, it wouldn't be a Formula E Generation 2 race without cars piling in on top of each other. So we got that yesterday for the last time. But yeah, I'm hoping we keep it. But it, to me, flash in the pan.
You brought up a really good point of how the Gen car should have been replaced, but we still had it because of the pandemic and everything that's going to come out next year. And it was interesting, as you mentioned, the opening lap today, we saw that beating and banging. Lucas Di Grassi, I thought he was going to be out of it after the contact, but he kept going. Eventually, a slow puncture ruined his day. But overall, seeing the consistency there, and then just the drivers, if you have a good qualifying performance, it's not just because you were in the last group, you're lowest in the points, it's because your team is overall good. When it comes to pick a winner this year, very interesting, Joshua. We saw where it was just really London London E-Prix weekend, and this race, 3 races, nobody correctly guessed the winner overall. Compared to other series, it seems like that Wheel of Destiny is long gone, but it'll be a flash in the pan. It'll be really interesting to find out. Vandoorne, of course, today he originally finished 3rd place, but got bumped up to 2nd place because Jake Dennis handed a penalty for contact with Antonio Felix da Costa. Many didn't agree with this penalty, citing the hard racing, especially this is Formula E. With this generation car, we just seen where it's beating and banging. That first lap was chaos all over. The big thing was, do you agree with the penalty for Jake Dennis, or was this just a case of hard racing?
I don't agree with it. I don't. I think that, like yesterday when we saw one for Mortara, it was a case of it's racing. And I didn't agree with it. If anything, I think Da Costa deserved more of a penalty than Jake Dennis, because Dennis was on the inside line. He couldn't go anywhere. He turned in, and there was literally no place for him to go. He was already riding the curb, and Acosta, as soon as he started to overtake him, just started to close and shut the door as well, just began to close it. And if anything, that's forcing a driver off the track, in my opinion. So I don't agree with the penalties that we've seen this weekend. I don't agree with the fact that Jake Dennis got it. I think it robbed him of a great second place charge he had. I mean, where did he start the race today? Jake Dennis started third today, finished third, okay, but he was clearly ahead of Vandoorne for most of the race. His lap times were quicker as well. Looking at the speed charts we've got in front of us here as well in the comms box, he was faster for 5 laps out of the 34 we ended up having. So that was after the safety car restart as well, late on. So no, Dennis should have definitely had it. He should have not had that penalty. He should have had second. And I'm worried about the way the stewards are going now if we're penalising good, clean racing, because people just start switching off, especially with Formula E having a television crisis where the viewing figures are dropping massively. Then I think it's the wrong decision to start making the purists want to turn off, which is what I felt like during the race. And I was commentating on it. I didn't want to watch it because I was annoyed, again, that the stewards are interfering where they don't need to.
I have to agree with you. Formula E, what I've really been drawn into is just sort of the physical nature of this race. And you got the cars on these tight street circuits. There's going to be contact. We saw that opening lap where you had, I believe, 3 or 4 wide trying to get into that first corner, and they still made it work despite debris falling all over the place. And this incident, I feel like it was the wrong call by Formula E. And we got commented chatting from COVID. I thought it was just a racing incident. Acosta was the one making an aggressive move. At least Dennis is still on the podium, so that softens the blow a bit. 100% agree with you. And then a question also from Kobe. How Formula E season looking? I think it's up there with MotoGP with the number of drivers or riders without a deal next year.
Yeah, I mean, we saw today a debut driver for Sasha Fentraz as well, and he finished 16th overall, and he's driving for Nissan next year as well. So he's already got a race debut under his belt before going into next season. He was running in the top 10 at one point as well, then dropped back after the safety car. So he's already driving for Nissan next year as well. I think replacing Roland, I think, could be. But Roland's disappearing. Vandoorne isn't at Mercedes next year, what will become McLaren. He's going over to DS, who are moving away from Chichita and going to Andretti. And if you're confused yet as well, it just, they're off to Dragon, Penske, my God. Andretti are getting Avalanche back as well, and they're keeping with theirs as well. And everything's moving over. So we're going to have, I think, have a massive pre-show which explains what everything now looks like. Because Venturi, they're leaving, but their team is staying because they're getting rebranded as Maserati. McLaren are coming in, replacing Mercedes. But their structure stays the same. As I said, DS are leaving to Cheetah and going to partner with Dragon. We've got no idea who the McLaren drives for Zara. It's either Will Stevens, Rene Rast, Oliver Rowland, Oliver Askew, Daniel Ricciardo. There's so many involved in that driver market now. It's unbelievable. So, as I said, yeah, it's up there with MotoGP for the amount of people moving around. But Formula E, for once, is now very much heavily entwined in the trio, which is IndyCar, Formula One, and now, of course, Formula E, which are the 3 main series that everything is revolving around with the driver market this year. So it's nice that Formula E is getting that publicity, but unfortunately, it's being seen as it's a downgrade from Formula One for Daniel Ricciardo if he ends up there. So it's not good. I mean, this morning I even heard that Colton Herta could be driving the McLaren in Formula E alongside IndyCar duties, and I don't know how that's going to work out because many of the races clash. So I've got no idea what's going on anymore for the silly seasons. Kobe, it's going to be one to watch throughout the year, the remaining of this year, because now we're in the autumn break it's not a winter break, it's the autumn break for Formula E, because of course we race in January in the middle of winter.
January, middle of winter, but it'll be in Mexico where it's going to be nice, warm, and sunny compared to most places north of Mexico where it's not going to be nice and sunny. I have to agree with you, though. When it comes to the silly season, it is really one to follow. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with McLaren with all this going on with Daniel Ricciardo, Alex Palou, rumors of Colton Herta. Where is he going to end up? I believe it was the first or the second season of Formula E where Andretti had a different driver in one of their vehicles, where we saw like Scott Speed for a few races. I believe Simone de Silvestro. Do you recall that season when they were doing that, rotating somebody? Yeah, so
Season 2, wasn't it? It's another season because after that they brought in the rule that you can't change drivers in the last 2 races, and you're only allowed 2 drivers per car per season because they were constantly switching around at different points. And we had in one season, I think we had 37 drivers in Formula E. I think that was season 1 as well. In season 2, it was something like 32, something or other. So we had a lot. The drivers' championships right now, today it reads as 23. When we get the final classification, it'll read as 25 because we had extra drivers this weekend with Norman Nato and Fenstras as well. So 25 drivers took part this season, but it's going to be season 1. It was on 2 pages. That's how long it was for the drivers' championship with everyone getting classified because the people who raced, because it was the first season, scored points. So it was quite hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah, that first season was really something else. And of course, that first race, we all remember the last lap where you had Prost trying to go for the win, Heinfeld flying in the air, and Lucas di Grassi going by, getting race 1 win. This was Formula E's 100th race, his 100th race, but he got a 11th place finish after that puncture. Martora, he won the 50th race for Formula E, and now he has the 100th race for Formula E under his belt. 100 races later, since that first one where Lucas di Grassi won and Heinfeld went up in the air, had everyone talk about what a finish for this brand new series. What stands out from Formula E in the past 8 seasons the most?
Oh, I think it's put electric racing on the map. That's been absolutely fantastic. The development they've done is fantastic. The 2 generational cars we've had have changed the road going cars as well. And now with generation 2 leaving, the battery performance data we've got from this can now be put into production for road cars as well. That we'll see in the next year or 2. It's such a quick turnaround as well for this technology. And I think as well for generation 3, they're going to work more in tandem with road cars, so that as soon as it's on the Formula E car and developed, you'll get it on the road car within the space of a year. So generation 3 is going to be quick for the new systems coming in as well. So it's improved the road going technology massively. In terms of pure racing, it's shown people that you don't need engine noises to have really fantastic races, because it's the wheel-to-wheel drama, it's the skill that makes everybody go, wow, that is brilliant. It set the standard for some death-defying crashes. We mentioned race 1 with Heidfeld flipping over and spinning over backwards and barrel rolling 3 times midair. Alex Lynn in Saudi Arabia last year, taking off like an aeroplane and skiing down. Bit similar to Joe's crash actually this year at Silverstone. The multi-car pileups we had in season 5 that everybody's getting sick of. We went on a basis of, I think, 5 races running, we had a red flag. And that was very unusual because in the first 4 seasons of Formula E, we didn't have a red flag until Hong Kong with a multi-car pileup in season 4. And that was the only one. Season 5, we had one in the season opener. Then we had one in Hong Kong. Then we had one in Rome. And then it just kept on going. And it was just a running joke. Sanya, a red flag. And then, of course, in Bern as well. So it just got ridiculous. So I think it's put the present up there that you can have racing without the engine noise. It's good racing. The crashes are spectacular, and luckily everybody walks away from them as well, because the safety on these cars are more than what we see in Formula One. And I think it's just been some great racing and some fantastic stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Generation 3's got to offer when we start race 101. And I like that symmetry, actually, that we've had. We've done 2 generations and we've done 100 races. Now, for the next 50 races or so, it will be Generation 3. So it's looking quite good.
Looking quite good. Kobe with a comment. I follow Formula E since the first race in Beijing. It's cool to watch it develop to respect the World Championship over the years. I hope respect for Formula E continues to grow worldwide. And I have to agree. From that first race in Beijing, I just remember thinking, okay, let's see how this goes. Brand new electric car technology. Now we're seeing more and more electric cars on the road. I think what's really great is what they've done with their model of bringing the racing to the cities rather than a closed circuit track that's away from the cities, bringing it to the cities. Their huge environment, their huge party-like atmosphere. It just really is something else where you're seeing a lot of folks get into Formula E. And then the manufacturers coming in, that's always been exciting. Unfortunately, Audi, Mercedes, they headed now BMW too, but when they were coming in, the growth, the excitement was there. Be really interesting to see what happens with McLaren. And now Maserati coming in, that's going to be very exciting as well. Another comment, a lot of American fans are turned off by Formula E due to the lack of noise. Plus, our current TV deal needs improvement. Yeah, something else where first it was on FS1, sometimes it was live, sometimes it was tape delayed, and then CBS Sports Network, which I don't even have, so have to find ways to watch the races. But it's just something else where I think if they could get American driver and some more American coverage, they could easily grow. One of the big things, of course, with Formula E, I think one race that really stands out, Mexico City, Pascal Wehrlein, literally out the last corner, trying to block Lucas Di Grassi, but Lucas Di Grassi got the win. London, the championship deciding race between Buemi and Lucas Di Grassi, where they were just trying to set the fastest lap. That was a very unique duel. What a fantastic race. Some of the memories that I think really stand out the most. I remember season 5, just the red flag after the red flag. I remember Dan tweeting that this feels like a more chaotic race than the NASCAR Cup Series at times, because there was a lot of beating, banging, red flags. Only thing missing was just a playoff and a overtime, which now they sort of do with that. Oh, we have a safety car period. We got some extra time added, but we know it's a timed race, so it's not necessarily overtime. But it's just really exciting stuff, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next year. This race, we've been talking about the beating and banging. We saw that in that first lap, a lot of beating and banging, that physical racing that we always been seeing each and every year, especially with this generation car. But now, as you mentioned, we got the new car coming. I'm assuming we're going to keep this qualifying format, which everyone seems to really like. The duels are really fun to watch at the end. And you don't have this randomness of the folks starting the bottom of the points, starting up towards the front because they came out on the track on a more ideal time. Venturi, as you mentioned, they're becoming Maserati. Mercedes are going to change to McLaren. Jaguar, the only team where they know it's the same two drivers from this year carrying over to next year, even though now there was a substitute for Sam Bird after an injury. Sam Bird will be back. Overall, do you believe with this new car, new team, new drivers, and pretty much a lot of new places, you say it was going to flash in the pan? Because these might potentially be a drastic change where it might be that crazy randomness, or could we see potentially like one team hit it out of the park and with their qualifying format and everything, the consistency and a dominant team just really take off?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping we don't see one team domination, because everybody then will definitely switch off. I want competition, but at the same time, I don't want the randomness that we had in the previous seasons as well. I think the dual format did actually help calm that down a bit, because season 8 we still had the group format where the championship leaders went out in group 1 and they were pushed right to the back of the grid, and sometimes it was raining in group 1 and it was dry in group 4, so they got even further down and didn't get into Super Pole and so on as well with the fastest 6 drivers. And I think that format didn't work, and that was what gave us 14 drivers going to the last race as possibility of being a champion as well, 75% of the field. So I think the duels have really helped keep the fastest drivers at the front, and it's helped them keep it, but it's also kept the jeopardy of you make a mistake in qualifying, you're not going to get through. So we saw Mitch Evans be a victim of that today. Fast and won the race yesterday, 13th on the grid today. He missed out in the group stages. So it's kept that randomness, at the same time try and control it. And that's where we keep saying consistency is key. Vandoorne got through the group stages, got into the duels, started 3rd on the grid. Where did he start? 5th on the grid as well. Got up to 3rd, finished 2nd, of course, because of the penalty. So he was consistent. And I think I'm hoping to see that in Gen 3. And I'm hoping as well that we see at least 2 or 3 teams hit the front running with the new battery tech coming and the new car aero package coming. Hopefully, it's no longer a spec series anymore like it was in series in Gen 1. So I'm thinking it should be good. It should be quite fun to see.
I think it's going to be quite fun to see everything for next year. It seems to be really shaping up, and I'm really excited to see how these teams, especially the front of the pack, with the changes coming, how they'll do. Really interesting because last year I was thinking, okay, Formula E, they're going to switch the qualifying format. Will we see a huge gap? Really, we didn't see that huge gap. I mean, Nick DeVries, yeah, he got 2 wins. He was a championship favorite, but those DNFs that took him out, the Stoffel Vandoorne, the consistency, that really just made it where he didn't get the most wins. He was just consistently in the points. That's still going to be very important. I'm wondering if we're going to see more drivers just try to aim for that consistency. Before we go to the next question, and taking a look at the final grid ratings for the ABB Formula E, Stoffel Vandoorne, as you can see, with that consistency, just well ahead of Mitch Evans, Montoya, John Edgren, and Lucas Di Grassi. Those are going to be the 5 drivers in the grid ranking for the remainder of the year. And very interesting, Stoffel Vandoorne currently in the top 10. It looks like we might have 2 or 3 drivers finish in the top 25, which in the past Formula E, because of the randomness, they were always towards the bottom. Now, especially Mitch Evans, the run he did since Rome, it really shows that there is a bit of a shift going on, and it seems like that qualifying format is making it where you don't have the disadvantage of you're the points leader, you went out first on the track at the worst stage, and now you're starting last and you're getting caught up in messes, and you're going to follow group 2 or 3, depending on how far along we are in the season. Next season, Mexico City, January 14th. 18 races are planned. However, we know there are some rounds, 3 of them right now, that no venue has been announced. No word on New York City or any site in the US yet. Brazil and India, they are both going to be on the calendar for next year. So overall, we're going to have a pretty exciting season next year. Hopefully we'll be following. And of course, Kobe, Adam on Grid tonight, they're going to announce if there is any finalized season and updates. Outside the championship picture this year, what are some of the biggest surprises that you saw in Formula E?
I think it has to go to the poor Antonio Giovinazzi. He came in with so much promise into this year's championship as well. We all thought, oh, he could be something really good. He might do what Verne did when he left Formula One and joined. But the car has just been absolutely shocking this year. Something was wrong with it. Either it was the alternator or the battery just wasn't working correctly or something. And nobody will truly know what was wrong with that car because until it finally gets revealed by somebody one day. But Giovinazzi then in the crash yesterday broke his hand, not racing today, got replaced, as I said, as well by Fenstras. But I was really disappointed and I was really upset for Antonio Giovinazzi because he is a much faster and much greater driver than what this season in Formula E has made him point out, proving that that car just does not work. And I was happy that he was in the points in London and the car seemed to pick up at the end of the year, but then it failed on him. So there's potential there. Hopefully Gen 3, and with DS coming on board for Dragon as well, that Dragon Penske car has been turned in, as Edward Hunter put it, it's gone from being a Minardi to a Ferrari. So I think that's going to be really good. And Vandoorne there as well is going to be quite something in that car.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see the team go from, like you said, the Minardi of the pack, potentially the Ferrari. Hopefully they don't have the same kind of strategy as Ferrari next year.
Hopefully.
Have more contentions for the wins. Thankfully, there's no pit stops unless Formula E introduces that next year, but we're really interested to follow. One big surprise for me was Diaz Techeetah. I felt like past years they always are up there towards the front, but it just seemed like they were the distant third place. John-Eric Verne, he was contending for the championship, but then as soon as qualifying was done, the first race of this weekend, he was out of it. And Antonio Felix Acosta just did not have the season like he typically does. Really interesting to see where that team all changes up for next year. That was one of my biggest surprises I felt overall. Then Nick DeVries, 2 wins, but then the inconsistency was just really hurting him. Where last year he looked like I thought he was going to be a 2-time champion at the beginning of this season. So, but overall, great stuff, and definitely another championship has been crowned in Formula E. Another championship is wrapped up. So we're only down to 7 in the grid ranking, but still, Joshua, what is your signing moment from Formula E this year?
I'm going to go for the Jakarta race. I said it on air with Ed as well. And I think that race in Jakarta, our first visit there, and everything just felt like it was on it turned up to 11. It was explosive. It was dramatic. We had 3 cars fighting for the win right towards the line, and to which point we didn't know who had won because we were looking at a different angle. The computer was showing that they crossed the line at 0.000, the closest finish in history. I think it was like 0.002 of a second separating them in the end as well. And it was just a fantastic race. And me and Ed did have a few internet problems during that race, but it was still the best race of the season. It was fantastic.
Jakarta was a great race. I think that's definitely up there. For me, I got to say, Rome E-Prix weekend, I was really impressed because prior to that weekend, I remember thinking, Jaguar, what's going on? They only have 1 point. Sam Bird, Mitch Evans, it just seemed like this team was going to go nowhere. What's going to happen? Then Mitch Evans gets the win. Okay, that's great. Who's going to win the next race in Rome? Well, he did it again. And he just put on a championship-worthy effort, came up a little short. What happened in London with the mechanical failure, and then just qualifying seems to be one of their weaknesses they got to take care of, because today, just being in 13th and Stoffel Vandoorne up front, that seemed to be a big decider. And essentially that, I think, swayed essentially this championship. At really, the pressure was on Mitch Evans all race long. It was interesting. Mitch Evans said, well, I knew there was a chance we're not going to contend for the championship. I'm just here to focus on having a good race. But you can see after the race, his team, they looked pretty dejected. They were still in it to get the championship. And overall, just really something else. Now, Joshua, before we go off the air, I know we only have Formula E really from the grid ranking, but what other races are going to be covering this weekend on your channel?
Well, we've got the British Touring Car Championship starting in around about 90 minutes time or so for not 1990, so an hour and a half. We've got race 1 from Snetterton, that's 12:08 British summertime, and then we've got race 2 and race 3 throughout the day as well. Looking forward to I'm disappointed because they're at Snetterton, and I was at Snetterton last year, trackside, and I'm a bit like, I want to be there. And I could have been, but I couldn't have made it from here to Snetterton in time with that Formula E race being on the time it was. So that's disappointing. There is a shot I can get to Silverstone, though, for touring cars in a couple of weeks, but it looks unlikely, which is disappointing, but it's the way it goes sometimes. We've got NASCAR, of course, coming up as well. It's going to be another classic one tonight as well. I don't know if I'm on the call. I might be, but I might not be. I don't know. I know you did it last weekend, actually, with that IndyCar coverage as well, because I know Matthew joined us on USON 2 for that. But other than that, I think there's only not much on this weekend, actually. It's quite a quiet one as well. It's sort of like the junior series get boosted up to the World Championship era, so it's quite good.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a quiet weekend compared to the next race weekend, where we got a lot of racing next weekend. Despite Formula E being done, we're going to have IndyCar at Gateway, MotoGP at Austria, NASCAR Watkins Glen, Repco Supercar Series at Sandow, and Royal Rally Championship. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be following that right here on the Grid Network. And we want to thank our Patreon subscribers, calling the show Mark and Robin, for keeping us on the air all year long. You too can invest in the Grid Network through the link below on our Patreon page, or buy me a coffee, a one-time contribution to the Grid Network, which Ed, Amber, and Zachary have done for us. Thank you all. We always appreciate it. And if you want to invest in the stock market, check out public.com. Use the referral code GRIDnet. You get the opportunity to invest for free in the stock market. Get about $5 in free stock. Invest, learn about investing in the stock market, connect with new and current friends on public.com. Be sure to use our referral code GRIDnet so you get $5 in free stock to invest. And overall, thank all our viewers for watching and tuning in. Be sure to click the link below to Joshua Burr's Motorsports channel as he covers the British touring cars, and then all the races, including Formula 1, MotoGP, and on occasion, IndyCar as well. Well, we got an exciting month. We got Portland coming up later in the year as well, too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. For Joshua Birch, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.